Produced by Production IG and Aniplex with Hiroyuki Kitakubo. Directing was Blood the Last Vampire. The film highlighted that it was set in 1966 Japan. The story of the animated feature was that of a mysterious woman by the name of Saya whom hunts bat-like creatures that were called chiropterans in the film. The animated film starts out in an underground metro station where Saya uses a Japanese katana to assassinate a man. However, soon after the assassination, American agents, or as mentioned in the film, her quote-unquote handlers, come to brief her about the situation. One of the agents, being that of a man named David, informs her that she is to infiltrate the American air base at Yokosuka. And during the assessment of the situation, the other agent notices that the man that Saya executed was probably not a chiropteran, and that she might have accidentally killed an innocent person, but with the situation relating to the chiropterans allows for mistakes to be sometimes made. The next mission is that Saya is to impersonate a schoolgirl attending a facility near the Yokosuka base, which itself is preparing to send United States armed forces into Vietnam due to the escalation of the conflict in Vietnam. A debrief mentions that a chiropteran had managed to infiltrate the base and there have been a number of related deaths. The situation has it that to avoid further incidents, Saya is to attend the school, find out who the chiropteran is, and then to kill them. On Halloween night, Saya investigates the school and attends a party and encounters the vampire-like beings throughout the base. The whole incident is witnessed by dozens of people. Through the feature, Saya discovers the chiropterans and kills each and every one of them. David mentions that Saya is a vampire herself, and that the United States uses her to hunt chiropterans because there's no one or nothing else capable of killing them, and that she is, quote-unquote, the only remaining original, though as to what, why, or how that is never explained. Once all of the chiropterans are dead, one of the first witnesses who had seen Saya at the base during the Halloween party incident is being interviewed. It's later revealed that all evidence of the chiropterans on Saya had been covered up, on leaving no evidence to corroborate what witnesses had seen during the incident. The government official questions the witness by showing them a picture of a group of people within it. The witness later confirms one of the women in the photograph as Saya, but upon further looking at the picture, with the year of 1892 upon it, on the word vampire written onto it as well, as the witness is shocked that Saya is the same person depicted in a photograph from 74 years previously. The witness is later allowed to leave, and had final thoughts mentioning the truth about Saya as well as the chiropteran, which were never resolved. Saya as a character was intentionally left vague on purpose. Details mention that she was a human-vampire hybrid. Having no aversion to sunlight, she was depicted with having aversion to religious items, and becoming somewhat angry when people mention God in her presence. She also had superhuman strength and senses, as well as durability and ruthlessness. In the animated feature, Chiroptera is Greek for hand wings. Spoken in English as chiropterans are bat-like beings with intelligence similar to that of human beings, possessing shape-shifting or disguising abilities as humans. They can transform into bat-like beings depicted in the animation. The chiropterans can't fly, but use their wings to glide over vast distances. As mentioned, they're vampiric beings feeding off blood from humans or even other creatures. Their strength, durability, and stamina are extraordinary, as they can heal from almost any non-lethal wound almost instantaneously by using the blood they had fed upon from other creatures. Due to this fact, the only way to kill them is to essentially cause them to lose a significant amount of blood from a single attack. This is why in the animated film Saya uses a Japanese katana, due to the samurai using such weapons centuries ago to kill their opponents almost instantly with single attacks, as the opponent would die naturally from blood loss. It's not that Saya had a preference for the Japanese weapons, just that to kill the Chiropterans, the Japanese swords were the most useful weapon in 1966 against the Chiropteran threat. As to why the film was so short and the character of Saya so vague, when questioned about it, Hiroyuki Kitakubo mentioned that it was done on purpose because he had ideas for Saya's past, present, and future, but it would have been up to other officials involved with the project that would be the deciding factor in the theoretical continuation of the story of Blood the Last Vampire. Production IG intentionally wanted Blood the Last Vampire to be a three-part story, depicted in different forms of media, with the continuation and ending of the story being through novels and video games. This did happen, but the original story continuations didn't have the same exposure within Japan or internationally as the Japanimation did. At the time, the concept of blood was something different because of the character of Saya, and the concept of the Chiropterans were a very original concept from Production IG. The idea of a woman in a Japanese school uniform wielding a katana was something different than what had else been produced at the time. The setting of the feature being that of the Yokosuka Air Base was very Western, and the elements depicted in the film were heavily influenced by Western and American themes. Hiroyuki Kitakubo also read the British novel Dracula and watched the American series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as these details also brought out Western horror and fear depicted in the animated film as well. When originally released, Blood the Last Vampire received awards and recognition across the world and was noted for its horror-esque themes, on the character of Saya being an original and fresh new character for animation. However, as mentioned, due to Production IG's decision to continue the story through other forms of media, led many fans of the series to assume that was the end of the Blood story, and that the details of Saya and the Chiropterans were left vague or even unresolved on purpose, which added to the mystery of the story even if it was unintentional. In 2005, Sony and Production IG announced the series of Blood Plus, which was an alternate version of the plot of Blood the Last Vampire, and had very minor connections or similarities to the film as well as the character of Saya and the Chiropterans. This spin-off of Blood the Last Vampire became successful, and as a result became its own franchise with novel and manga adaptations and even video game media. In 2011, the manga group Clamp and Production IG pronounced the collaboration on another anime spin-off of Blood the Last Vampire, being that of Blood Sea. This was not related to the original story nor the 2005 Blood Plus series, as Blood Sea diverged so much that the only similarities to the original depiction of blood was the name of Saya as the main character, using a katana as a weapon, on the premise of killing monsters with the weapon was kept from the original story, with this version of Blood also becoming its own franchise, with adopted media, but public opinion of it in Japan was mixed, as it was viewed less favorably than Blood Plus, or the original Blood the Last Vampire. In some situations, the spin-off of Blood the Last Vampire were known more than the original short feature. Sometimes a character can be forgotten because they weren't forgotten, just not remembered the way they were originally depicted.